Hi, I'm Josh Jenkins. I'm the R&D manager at Scientific Anglers, and I'm going to go over some of the aspects of sinking lines that make them different from floating lines and how to use that to inform your decision when you're selecting a sinking line. Rather than using a traditional line size system like most floating lines, occasionally sinking fly lines will be rated by grain weight. And there's a little bit of confusion about grain rating system. Grain weight basically determines the size of rod that line should be paired with, and it has no correlation directly to the sink rate. So if you have a 300 or a 350 grain sinking line, don't automatically assume that's going to tell you how fast it's designed to sink. You need to look for that sink or type or class specification to figure out the density and how fast that line will sink. In addition to density, we have one more thing to consider with sinking fly lines, and that is how long the sinking zone is. And generally, sinking lines are going to fall into two categories. We have sink tips, where the side of the fly line that's closest to your fly is going to sink, and then behind that you have floating line. And we also have full sinking fly lines, where essentially the entirety of the line is designed to sink. Full sinking fly lines are great because they're going to fish more consistently at a certain depth, but there are a couple advantages to sink tip lines, especially if you're wading. The floating running line of sink tips make it a lot more manageable while you're wading. If I were to try to wade fish with a full sinking fly line, I'm going to have that running line coiling at my feet, which could possibly tangle. Additionally, sink tip lines are going to be easier to pick up off the water to make my next cast. A full sinking line, if it's near the bottom of a lake or a river, is going to be much harder to pull up to make that next cast than a sink tip fly line. In some of Scientific Anglers' sinking lines, we use multiple densities. And we have a couple technologies that we use to manage those different densities to make the lines turn over smooth and to fish in a straight line. We use both seamless density technology and triple density technology to do this. Triple density technology basically incorporates three different densities onto one fly line. So we have a density for the running line, we have a density for the back of the head, and we have a density for the front of the head. And it graduates. So at the back end, towards your reel, you're going to have a relatively slow sink rate. And as you get closer to the fly, that's going to increase. And what this does is it gives you a straight line connection to your fly with no sag, so you have very positive hook sets and strike detection. Similar to our 3D technology, seamless density accomplishes the same thing with just two densities and a smoother transition between. So instead of having three densities, we have two, one on either end. We have a slower one closest to the reel and a faster one closest to the fly. And in between, those two densities actually blend together at different rates, starting at a very slow rate, getting faster and faster. So you essentially accomplish the same things, but with seamless density, it's a little bit smoother and it's a little bit more consistent. Additionally, we have different options in sinking lines for various temperatures you might find yourself in. So we have sinking lines for cold water, for things like trout, and then we also have tropical sinking lines for when you're fishing for tarpon or anything else that might swim in warm waters. Sonar is our dedicated sinking line family, and within Sonar we have a ton of options for whatever fishing scenario you might find yourself in. We have sink tip lines in various densities, and we also have full sink lines in various densities. So whether you're fishing from the surface or all the way down to the bottom of a lake or river, we've got you covered.